clean slate, and it kicked off with a crucial Thursday night game between two teams fighting for their playoff lives. And guess what? The Detroit Lions still very much alive. Right now, according to most models after that win, probably about a 50-50 shot to make the playoffs. Even if they lose to the Rams next week, if they win out, they will have a very good chance to get in playing the Bears in week 18. So the Lions, with their backs against the wall, come up with a massive win.
I love the framing of their backs being against the wall, because what a performance. And even you could look at the defensive performance and look at the yards and the points. Obviously, Dallas scores 30 points. Dak Prescott put up a ton of yardage, but the amount of pressure they were able to generate, ultimately the mistakes they were able to force from the Dallas offense, they do enough for a unit that has just been so depleted by injury on that side of the ball. And then I can't say enough about how impressed I was with Jared Goff.
He played unbelievable in this game.
I don't, and I think I've said this before on the show. Maybe this is just me. I don't want to speak for everybody. I think in a lot of moments, especially if he's pressured, especially if there's guys in his face, I think about the Philly game a couple weeks ago where they went for it on so many fourth downs, and that throw that you had to have, it just felt like it always fell incomplete. And for right or for wrong, I often feel that way about Jared Goff, where I'm like, okay, you got to have it. Can you make this throw? And he was doing it tonight, man. Like time after time after time on third downs, down in the red zone, keeping things moving. The one he hit to Amon-Ra St. Brown on the crosser on, I think it was like 3rd and 5
on the final drive.
3rd and 6. Just a nails throw. He had another one on a comeback to Jameson Williams. We're just stepping into pressure, stepping into guys in his face, and making clutch throws. I thought he was incredibly impressive.
That throw to Jameson Williams, to me, is where the game swings. So the Cowboys fumble on that. There's the weird kind of lateral from Dak on that play, by the way. Go back and watch the replay of that play where Dak throws the ball backwards. The jump that Aiden Hutchinson gets on that play is insane. Aiden Hutchinson finished with 10 pressures in this game, 3 quick pressures per next gen. He was everywhere. Nate Thomas had a tough night. But so that drive ends, obviously, with the Jake Ferguson fumble caused by Jack Campbell, who was also awesome in this game. On the ensuing drive, the Lions get a short field, their second one of the day, after the would-be safety that wasn't. This is their second one in the first half. They get a holding call on that drive while up 10-6. On a 2nd and 17 from the -40, Jared throws that comeback to Jameson Williams. Go watch when he lets that ball go. It is so incredibly early. The anticipation, placement, timing on that throw. They pick up the first down on that chunk explosive. They go down. Monty finishes it off with that incredible effort on that touchdown run. It goes to 17-6. That sequence is the most important sequence of the game, and that throw from Jared is what kickstarts that sequence.
And this is a Lions offensive line, and going back to my point about Jared Goff not always delivering the way you would prefer in these moments, it's, can you get him off his spot? Can you pressure him? And this Lions offensive line, we've talked about it a lot on the show. It's not the unit that you've gotten used to watching over the last 2 years. Miles Frazier steps in this game.
That was huge, by the way.
Yeah.
Because Tristan Colon was getting worked as the 4th left guard that they've had to play this year. And so putting Miles Frazier in that game might have saved the Lions in this one, because if Colon had to play for the whole thing, I'm not sure how this would have gone.
He held up really well. So considering where the Lions have been with their offensive line, and how not ideal it's been for chunks of this season and for chunks of this game, it made Jared Goff's night that much more impressive. I don't fully agree. And let me be a radio caller. Let me be a call-in sports talk radio guy for a second. In a game where nobody punted in the second half, George Pickens doesn't make the play he needs to Dak and George Pickens have been simpatico on those contested slants all year long. It has been money all year. He's got the vice grip hands. Bad play. Does not contest that well enough. It was there, and it pops up. Detroit gets it. Literally, look behind the scenes that you didn't ask for. I live 10 minutes from here. I hopped in the car at halftime. I was like, there's no way I'll miss anything before I get here. I'm going to miss a maximum of 2 plays. There's no way. I walk in the studio door, and the Lions are scoring and I came in, I'm like, okay, Dallas is going to have a chance. They're going to get the ball coming out of the half. They're going to have a chance to go cut the lead closer. And I walk in as Isaac Tisla is scoring. I'm like, what the hell happened here? Like, this is not what I expected. And so in a second half where there were literally no punts, George Pickens swung this game in a way where I found myself wishing I was like, I wish that this hadn't happened so we could just see these offenses trading points and trading scores. But that play gave Detroit a huge cushion that helped them hold on here in the second half.
It's a massive swing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that is the swing. Like, that's a crucial moment that you're talking about after the fumble.
Oh yeah, the interception.
But like this it just changed the entire complexion of the second half.
I think that 2nd and 17 is more like a quiet swing moment in the game. The interception is the big swing moment in the game. And I'll throw out another one. There was a play on 3rd and 10 in the first half where Dak kind of put it into a tight window, and Pickens probably didn't attack it as much as you'd want him to.
He had a few plays like that tonight.
Neither of those plays, I think the 3rd and 10 in the first half and then the interception, are egregiously bad plays. But with a guy like that has been able to make those contested plays for most of the season, I think you just want a little bit more in those moments.
It's not egregious until you see what it looks like when he doesn't do it. And I guess maybe you take it for granted when all season long he's been that guy where it doesn't matter how sticky the coverage is. It doesn't matter how physically imposing the cornerback is. George Pickens has bullied guys and he's made himself a lot of money making those plays this year. And to see him very strikingly not come through for Dak, it was jarring. And like I said, it changed the complexion of the second half of the game.
You had a handful of moments in this game for Dallas where the wounds were, self-inflicted feels a little bit strong, but there were flubs on their end that ended up becoming huge in this game. The Dak sack on the goal line that probably should have been a safety. By the way,
should have been a safety.
Yeah, this idea that the Ferguson PI is a horrendous call in the moment where it happens. But the idea that like the Cowboys were the ones getting jobbed the entire game, the safety happens, and then Jared Goff has a free play on 3rd and 2 that doesn't end up becoming a free play. This is a perfect example to me of how the calls come out in the wash more often than not. I do not have to spend time talking about this.
No, I would just say it was a rough night for the officials
on both sides.
Both teams have plenty of reason to be aggravated by the officiating.
So you have that sack, that's a drive-ending torpedo play. There was the Nate Thomas sack that James Houston finishes it off, but Nate Thomas allows the pressure on that. They were in plus territory early in the game where Quentin Williams beats, excuse me.
No, Nate Thomas wasn't blocking James Houston.
Excuse me. It was there was a play where Nate Thomas, I think Derrik Barnes ended up getting the sack, but the Lions they had 3 defensive linemen in there, and then they brought a simulated pressure, and the Cowboys were in empty. And so Nate Thomas thinks that he has to squeeze the blitzing linebacker there.
Oh, when he just offered no contest.
Who was that? Who was the pass rusher?
It was Al-Qadim Muhammad.
So on that play, the reason that happens is the Cowboys are in empty. He thinks he has to squeeze the blitzing linebacker, but there's only 3 defensive linemen. So they're only bringing 4. So that's why he gets caught there. That's another drive-ending sack. So I think those were 2 big plays. What the Cowboys did at the end of the half was a little bit surprising to me. When they were moving the ball, and there was about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and they were already in plus territory, and they had 3 timeouts. And they were hurrying up to the ball. And in my mind, I'm like, why? You don't need to do this. And I think so many other teams this year have been so thoughtful about bleeding out clock in those situations to ensure that the other team is not getting another crack at it. Instead, the Cowboys hurry up. They end up kicking the field goal with about 50 seconds left. They give the ball back to the Lions, and then they're able to kick their own field goal before the half. And I thought, whatever the broadcast happened to say about this, I disagree. The 4th and 3, where they were down 10 and they cut it to 7 in the second half, you go for that. When your defense can't get a stop, you're on the road, it's a 4th and 3, I would almost promise you were going to be in a worse spot there before the end of the game than that 4th and 3. The NGS data, again, whatever the broadcast said, had it as a go, even if it was a slight toss-up. Based on the rhythms of the game, everything else, the fact that your kicker can get a 70-yarder if you get in range a little bit later, I'm going for that every single time.
So I firmly agree with you about the end of the first half. And it's very gratifying to see. I've been saying this. I covered the Cowboys for a long time. I've been saying this since the first time Aaron Rodgers broke the Cowboys' hearts at the end of a game. Wasting time when you're going against an offense like this, or like if you just can tell that you're having a hard time with the opposing offense, wasting time is just as important as scoring. And coaches for the longest time pushed back on that, where it's like you have to take the opportunity to score no matter what. That's paramount. And I never agreed.
It's a game of possessions.
And it's gratifying to see it coming back that way, where people recognize that that's true. So I'm with you on that. I ultimately think you're right about the way to play that. And yes, having Brandon Aubrey, somebody who can make it from the logo, do the harder thing first. But there's a caveman part of my brain. And it's the same thing with the go for 2 down 9 thing that, Black Friday, Eagles, Bears, where you go for 2, they don't get it, and it turns into this big toxic argument. I get the math, right? And like, I understand how it all makes sense, but there is a caveman part of my brain where I'm just like, just extend the game. Just give yourself a chance to be within a play, and you never know what could happen. But I will acknowledge, again, the Lions didn't punt in the second half of this game.
They had the ball in plus territory in like 3 plays.
It is probably in the late fourth quarter of a game like this, it is wishful thinking to think that it's going to play out any differently than the way that it did. So there's like a troglodyte part of my brain that's like, just get it to 7 points and figure the rest of that out later. But I will acknowledge that that's probably incorrect.
Let's sit in the big picture for both of these teams. This, to me, the Lions offense has been uneven this year. And the stat that I used, we did a show this week about why some of the preseason contenders have fallen back to the pack a little bit and what that means. The Lions offense still has a ton of potency. This is a group with a lot of talent, with a quarterback capable of playing like this as long as he's bundled up inside. Last year,
just slip that in there.
I love Jared Goff. I'm a huge Jared Goff fan, but there's a difference between Jared Goff in that dome and Jared Goff playing outside.
The Lions season ends at Soldier Field, in case anybody was curious.
So we can talk about that if you want to. This team is scary enough where I'm worried about how that might go and the fact that it might be a win and get in game. But the Lions, today is a reminder to me of the talent level on that offense and just how many guys they have. One, Amon-Ra St. Brown playing in this game after getting hurt last week. That is a tough dude. Some of the blocking from him in this game, some of the blocking from Tesla in this game, there were so many like little tiny contributions on that front, which we've come to expect from the Lions. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is just an insane player. And so even if the Lions offense, and the stat that I was going to throw out, so the Lions offense at its best is still a really dangerous unit. If you look at full-on season-long stats, rate stats, totals, all of that, they're going to be at the top of the league. It's just been more inconsistent this year. So coming into this week, the Lions had 6 games where the defense had a 60% defensive success rate or better this season. 6. They had 1 all of last year. And so the heights are still very impressive. It's way more up and down. It's been more of a roller coaster. So when they're playing at their best, they are still a scary fucking team. And that's what you saw tonight. And so them keeping their hopes alive, they are frightening if they get in because they have such a gear and so much talent on offense. And I think today was a very good reminder of that.
I'll admit it. I think I needed the reminder. Think back to where the Eagles have been, or excuse me, not the Eagles, the Lions. I'm looking at the Eagles game. They lose 16-9 in Philly. They needed every ounce of it to get past the Jameis Winston Giants. And then they lose to the Packers and kind of let the Packers make a statement in their place on Thanksgiving. And it's kind of easy to get lulled into a lot of what we've talked about. Like, is the offensive line good enough for this team to go where it wants to go? They're banged up on defense. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown gets injured on Thanksgiving. And I thought the Cowboys would win this game, to be brutally honest with you. I mean, they were on a heater here over these last 2 games. And the Lions, call it Dan Campbell's culture, call it heart of a champion team that's like won the division 2 years in a row, knows what it takes to get to that point in the season. But it very much felt like a team saying, like, screw that. Like, we're not going out sad like this, losing two games in 7 days and just having it be over a month before the season. Like, you could feel that sort of desperation, whether it was from the pass rush, whether it was from the offensive line playing the way that it did in a big spot. I thought it was, like I said, I needed the reminder that this was still there.
Here's how I think you can bucket the way this Lions season has gone and the way this Lions season has gone even for like the last 6 weeks. They can still beat the shit out of bad defenses. They've done it consistently. they struggle against the really good defenses.
Yep.
Again, there's just been more variance in what their offense feels like. I think partially because of the change in play caller. Everyone wants to pretend that's not a thing. It's a thing. But it's also just the quality of the interior of the offensive line and some of the injuries they've had to endure.
Yep.
For two different reasons, this team is just more fragile and a little less resilient against good competition than they have been in years past. You look at how much they struggled against the Vikings in that game. The Vikings obviously have been a mess in a lot of ways, but their defense gave the Lions problems in that game. They struggled against the Eagles, and they struggled against the Packers relatively. And then even like the Bucks game, they beat the Bucks because the Bucks offense couldn't move the ball, but the Lions offense down to down was not that consistent in this game. So when they played good defenses, they've struggled. And I think next week, we may see them fall back to the pack a little bit. As I bucket it that way, I'm doing it for a reason. The Cowboys defense is still bad.
Yes.
I understand it was fun to like watch the Cowboys kind of get themselves back into this thing. The Cowboys were down 21-0 to the Eagles. The Cowboys are allowed like a 50% success rate to the Chiefs last week, who continue to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties. The Cowboys defense is still bad. So as we kind of reframe what this means for the Cowboys, I think it's important to like actually have a realistic conversation about how far some areas of the Cowboys roster need to go for them to actually be a real team. This 3 weeks was fun. This is still a team that is far away from being like a complete contender in the NFC.
Far away from being a complete contender, and that's the frustrating thing. And let's take this moment, because I think as the Cowboys kind of clawed their way back into relevance, you've seen the idea of some people saying like, Jerry cooked.
Yeah, I'm ready for this.
Give Jerry some credit here. And okay, two things can be true. Once you make what I think is the colossal blunder of trading Micah Parsons, I can already see the light in your eye. Once you've made that blunder, I at least think this pivot is functional, right? And like
it's fine.
It's fine. But what I was going to say is, let's not give Jerry too much credit for even like the way they've looked over the last 3 weeks. They would have to do some crazy shit to even make the playoffs. And look at what your quarterback has done this year. Like the fact that, and I think at the end of the day, apologies to my Lions fans, I'm not like rooting against you, but I'm a little bummed we're probably not going to get to see Dak Prescott in the postseason the way that he's played. Even the way that he played in this game. Like he was good in this game. Those 2 interceptions are not on him. And I would have liked to see him ripping the ball downfield to guys like George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and not being afraid of throwing any seam ball in the playoffs. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And even if Jerry dug the Cowboys out of this hole with the Quinnen Williams trade, they went into the season this way and they got themselves that far behind the 8 ball before they did anything about it. So it's frustrating to think that we're trying to like whitewash that already.
And part of the reason this team needed to save some money is the bad contracts they've handed out to several players on defense. The cornerback contracts are like objectively very bad contracts. So they're working through that. This idea that like Jerry just did a master class with the Quinnen Williams trade and the way that it's been framed and the way that it was framed on the broadcast tonight is driving me insane. Okay. Quinnen Williams is a good player. Quinnen Williams wasn't free.
Yes.
They traded a 1st and 2nd round pick for Quinnen Williams. Okay. I just want to lay all of this out. I want to lay all this math out so we can actually have like a realistic framing of where the Cowboys are now compared to where they were before the Micah Parsons trade. Okay. This idea that, they saved so much money by not having to pay Micah Parsons.
I hate that.
Okay. Quinnen Williams in 2026 and 2027, his combined cap hits over the next 2 years beyond this one will be about $47 million. Micah Parsons' combined cap hits in 26 and 27 will be $45 million. So it's the same in those 2 years against the cap. Micah has a $42 million cap hit in 2028, but he has $17 million in dead money. So even if you wanted to move on from Micah after those 2 years, he would cost the same amount of money as Quinnen Williams. Micah got a $44 million signing bonus. So that is cash you didn't have to pay. Congratulations. You didn't have to pay the cash. And this whole thing about how much you're having to pay Micah, you were the reason that he had to get paid that much. Okay. So that's the financial element of it. This idea that they saved so much money in a 2-year increment, which is how teams usually think about money. They saved no money against the cap at all. They saved some cash. If we look at the draft picks, okay, the Cowboys right now, this is before the game ended, The 27th pick in the draft is going to the Dallas Cowboys from the Green Bay Packers. The 48th pick in the draft is going to the Jets, the second rounder they traded. That's now probably like the 44th pick. Okay. If you fast forward to 2026 and you look at, or 2027, and you look at that draft, let's say the Jets get the better of the two picks between the Cowboys and the Packers.
That little detail made me feel so much different about the Quinnen Williams trade, where I'm just like, ooh, I like this less than I did before I knew about that.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically, the Cowboys, who I think are set up to be a slightly worse team than the Packers next year, I feel comfortable saying that, get the 24th pick in the draft in 2027. Let's say the Packers pick 29th, okay? Relatively similar quality of teams. If you do the like draft chart math on all of that, with the first and second for this year and with the first in 2028, the difference in draft value between all of that is negligible. They're the same. It's the same amount of draft capital. So you saved $44 million in cash over the next 2 years by making the Quinnen Williams trade and trading away Micah Parsons. This idea that this is some like galaxy brain 4D chess thing from Jerry Jones is insanity.
The funny part about it is, well, I mean, the thing that would save this would be very Cowboys, which is to trip over themselves and draft a Micah Parsons caliber player with one of those picks, just fall ass backward into a 4-time all-pro caliber player
with the 27th pick in the draft.
I mean, crazier things have happened.
I'm just saying, like that, again, you're giving away the 48th pick. There's not that much of a difference between those two picks.
No, there's not.
Quinnen Williams is really good. The idea that they just now have Quinnen Williams for nothing, they traded so much to get Quinnen Williams. And so everything about the framing of this is just driving me crazy.
Well, and the other thing, and the Cowboys love to do this when they get into these contract standoffs, when they did it with Zeke. And the minute somebody is being difficult about money, they love to run and give money to guys who are not difficult. And however many years ago, it was Lyle Collins and Jalen Smith. And they quickly regretted those contracts. And this summer, it was Deron Bland and Jake Ferguson and Hunter Lipke. I don't know. I mean, Jake Ferguson is a fine player, but ask any Cowboy fan how they feel overall about his performance this season. I mean, in this game, he has a hands to the face penalty that wipes out a huge DPI that would have put them on the goal line. George Pickens.
That's another swing moment that
he has the fumble.
That one.
I mean, like I said, Jake Ferguson's a good player, but it has been a frustrating year watching him and watching him try to live up to getting that contract. So it's that thing where it's like, okay, now we can afford to pay Deron Bland and Jake Ferguson.
Cool.
It's like, I think I'd rather just give a shitload of money to the second best pass rusher in the NFL who's only 26 years old. That's just me.
And the only reason you have to give him a shitload of money is because of things you did. And at the end of the day, the Cowboys are going to be a relevant team with this offensive construction, because this is the first time in a while where I truly love watching the offense. I love watching it. I love the way that it's built. I love what they're asking everyone to do.
I said it last week. I think they're pound for pound, like just the most entertaining team to watch, or certainly the offense.
They're up there. They're 100%. I love what Clayton Adams and Brian Schottenheimer have done. Dak drives this. Dak was already here, and Dak has a $74 million cap hit next year because of what you've done. So this idea that as all the machinations are over and all of the chess pieces have been moved around, that the Cowboys actually outsmarted everybody. The Cowboys are going to be good as long as Dak Prescott's good. That doesn't mean that somehow they're seeing something that the rest of us are not. They're going to be competitive next year. They will probably be a good team. If they get a decent player with that first round pick, if they bring back George Pickens, I think they could be a playoff team. But the notion that the moves that Jerry made with the Micah thing is one of the reasons that they're any closer is fucking bullshit.
Can I ask you a question? You just alluded to it, but when all the, and this has been very fun. Like I said, it's not over. It's not over for the Cowboys, but it kind of feels over after this game. I think our playoff simulator has them at like an 8% chance if they were to like win out. So when the kumbaya moment of George Pickens being this revelation is over, are you ready to do it all again? You know, David Mulligetta is his agent, right?
Yeah. Well, he's going to get tagged and he's going to be pissed, and then we're going to have the whole thing. And how do you think George Pickens is going to handle the contract standoff?
I can't wait to follow it all in Oxnard, California next year. It's going to be awesome.
My issue with this team is not that they're bad. My issue with this team is that for the last 10 years, they should be better.
Yeah, more than 10. more than 10. Like
I'm mostly talking about the Dak era.
yeah, sure. Okay.
In the Dak era, they should be better.
And that's, I mean, like I said,
he's too good for you to not be better. And he was too cheap for too long for you to not be better.
It sucks that this season looks like it will be wasted. I think you could make a case that this has been his finest season so far. It's certainly on the short list with like 2023.
2023 is up there. The level of competition in 2023, I always come back to. I think that when you consider
and that look at
everything, I think he's playing his best football right now.
I said this on Wednesday night, and obviously, like they lose the game. He is officially credited with 2 picks.
That was just hilarious.
It's Dak in a nutshell. Like I said that I tweeted this right before we went on the air. Like if I was still doing TV, this game would break me. Like I'd call in sick to work. I can't go on TV and talk about this.
Yeah. Why would Dak allow the Lions to score 44 points in this game?
How could Dak do this as like the Eric Andre meme? But my point was, and I said it Wednesday night, like they play the Eagles, they play the Chiefs, they play the Lions all in a row. Obviously, those teams have all had their warts. They've all struggled in different ways, but Dak has traditionally not won games like that, even in the regular season when he's had opportunities like that. And he obviously did not win here, but Dak Prescott gave a winning effort, in my opinion. I think a lot of the pieces of his offense didn't quite meet him halfway.
And it wasn't enough to save this game, and it was not enough to save the Cowboys season. But the Detroit Lions, they did enough to potentially save theirs. So the Lions are very much back in it.
And they get the Rams next week.
And again, even if they lose that game, if they were to win out, there's still a good chance that they would make the playoffs.
That's fair, but having seen, and I mean, Dallas's defense is not the Rams' defense. The Rams are probably the best team in the NFL. But having gotten this reminder of who the Lions can be after a few down weeks, like I'm a lot more excited to see Lions Rams than I was heading into this game.
I'm always excited for that game. And so, but I think even with that in mind, if they were to lose to the best team in the NFL, potentially they get Steelers, Vikings, Bears to round this thing out. And
95% chance to make the playoffs if they win if they lose to the Rams and win the next 3.
Yes. And so if you don't think I'm already a little bit worried about that week 18 game,
Soldier
you're lying to
Field.
yourself.
Ooh, Jared Goff in an outdoor game.
It's 3 degrees outside.
Oh my God. Should we go? We could go. We could do that. We could make that happen.
It's a very weird place that the Bears offensive line is a group I trust more to run the ball for 180 yards in a 2-degree game than the Detroit Lions. It's amazing how quickly that has shifted.
We spend 10 months every year talking about every hypothetical and preparing for everything and expounding on all these things we expect. And every year the NFL season just shows us we don't know shit.
That is all we've got for today. Highly encourage you guys to check out our week 14 preview on your podcast platform of choice or here on the YouTube channel. If
really
you're listening to this on Friday, really fun show, really good slate. Dug into Bears, Packers, Jags, Colts, and a lot of other important games on this slate. If you're watching, you can only be watching this on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Would love that. It does a lot for us if you do that. So please, chat with each other, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Sincerely appreciate everybody who has been checking out the YouTube stuff all year. We've obviously been doing a lot more of it. For now, that's all we got. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.